Hello, my dear students. Today, let's see about abnormal stature. This is a topic closely related to my previous topic, which is growth. Stature refers to the height of an individual. When a person's height falls outside that of a normal population, it's known as abnormal stature. So, when a child comes with abnormal stature, we have to investigate and find out the cause and remedy it so that the child's growth becomes normal again. Let's look at some measurements which are useful in assessment of stature. Height. Height, I told you earlier how to get the correct height, how to measure it properly. Then body proportion. When we speak of body proportion, we speak in terms of upper segment is to lower segment ratio. US is to LS ratio. So if you take the normal body proportion, it varies or it differs, changes gradually from birth till adulthood. At birth, the upper segment is slightly bigger than the lower segment. Therefore, the ratio is 1.7. At 10 years, it's 1, which means the upper segment is equal to lower segment. And in adulthood, it's 0.9, indicating the lower segment is slightly more than the upper segment. Increased ratio, which means the upper segment is longer than the lower segment, is seen in certain condition which we call them infantile proportion because it's similar to that of a little baby. So it is seen in hypothyroidism where the growth is retarded, so the childhood or the infantile proportions are maintained. Similarly, it can be found in rickets. This is mainly due to the lower limbs, the shortening of the lower limbs. Similarly, achondroplasia also, there are short limbs, therefore the ratio is bigger than 1, greater than 1. Decreased ratio, which means the upper segment is smaller than the lower segment, is seen due to two causes. One is when the vertebral column is shortened due to some disease or disorder of the vertebra, like vertebral dysplasia or anomaly, or when there are longer lower limbs. So when the limbs are abnormally long, for example, Marfan syndrome, then the proportion changes. So there's another condition where the adrenal androgens are more active than the testosterone in boys, which gives rise to long limbs. This is called eunuchoidal habitus. So how do we measure the lower segment? It is the distance from your pubic bone to the floor. And how do we measure the upper segment? We take the height and deduct the lower segment length from that, then we get the upper segment. So this is a picture which shows the change of body proportion from birth to adulthood. So in infancy or childhood, it is the upper segment I told you is longer than the lower segment. Therefore, here 1 is given to a person's head. So therefore, here 1, 2, 3. So from the head to the lower beginning of the lower limb, it's 3, and below that it's 2. So this is 3:2 in this child. But as you can see, as it grows, the proportion changes, and here it is 3:3. That is 1:1, and gradually in the adult, you can see lower segment actually starts from here to here. So that is 1, 2, 3.5, and here it is 3. Okay, so 3.5, 4.5, and that is 3.5. So similarly, you can see the changes. These proportions are very important for artists. They need, because to produce a perfect drawing or art, they need these proportions and they use it. Now let's look at arm span. Arm span is the distance between the tips of the middle finger when the arms are stretched out and kept horizontally. And like body proportion, the arm span also changes from birth to adulthood. So at birth, the arm span is less than the length, 2.5 centimeters less than the length. And at 11 years of age, it is almost equal. And in adulthood, it is just slightly less than the height. Generally speaking, we can say in an adult, the arm span is equal to your height. Right? Increased arm span is seen in Marfan syndrome. Growth charts. Now, growth charts are important because we plot the height serially, right? So usually height is plotted every three months. And growth velocity, we derive from these plotted growth heights and see how many centimeters the child has grown in a year. Every 3 months, if we plot the height, and in 9 months time, the child has gained so many centimeters. So we can calculate in 9 months the child has gained, say, 2.53 centimeters. So what is it for a year? So that is how you use the growth velocity. So this is a picture of an arm span being taken in this child, and you can see he has stretched his arms, and this from the tip of the right middle finger to the left, the arm span is taken. And this chart shows the height and the arm span over an older age from 50 years onwards. And you can see the arm span is almost the same and the height is decreasing with age. And the difference between the arm span and height also, they made a chart so that in a population study, you can guess the height of a person. Then another mandatory thing to do when assessing a child stature is the mid-parental height. Mid-parental height is the average height of the parents, which is used to predict or guess the child's height. So mid-parental height, we get a median as well as a range, because biological things have a variation, so you can't have only one value. So we create a range. So for that, first we have to find the median of the mid-parental height. So for that, you average the parents' mother's height and father's height. That is adding them and dividing by 2. And then for boys, you add 6.5, and for girls, you deduct 6.5. Then you add and deduct 7.5 centimeters and find the range. Another thing which we assess during assessing heights and growth is sexual maturity, because puberty is closely related to growth. Then this is an example of a growth chart of a 3-year-old girl who measures or whose height is 85 centimeter. So if you look at this chart, this 85 centimeter for the age of 3 years falls below the 3rd centile. So because of that, they have taken the parents' height, right? So father's 165, mother's 155, and the mean mid-parental height is 160 this is the mean, 165 plus 55, average is 160, and they have deducted 6.5 because she's a girl. They have got a value of 153.5. So this is that, and then they have added and deducted 10 centimeters and made the mid-parental height. In the previous slide, I have showed you 7.5. So different schools of thought, different methods are there. So if you follow one, you have to follow the same. So in this chart, they have followed this way. One is the Tanner's method, and another one, I can't remember the name, but what you should know is you have to follow the same thing in a particular clinic. So if you take this child's height, though it is below the 3rd centile, if you take the mid-parental height centiles, if you project it downwards, you can see it falls well within this range. So we can say that child is actually growing according to her potential, right? So same thing we can say if the child is 9 years, again under the 3rd centile, again if you take the mid-parental height, it's going to fall within the range. bone age. So bone age corresponds well with the chronological age in normal circumstances. So bone age means the appearance of ossification centers in the skeletal system. So ossification centers are seen in many parts of the skeleton, but when assessing a height of a child, we take the hand. The left X-ray of the left hand is taken, and if you take bone age, in a normal child, in a normally growing individual, bone age is equal to the chronological age, which is the actual age, and the height age. What is height age? Height age is the age in which this particular height would be the median. So a normal child's height age will be his chronological age. So when I show you the examples, you will understand better. Now, bone age is a reliable index to determine growth and maturation. So we can use these standard charts or use a computer software. Nowadays things are easy. You give the X-ray and it will calculate and give you the bone age. So what are the abnormalities you can see in the bone age? In familial short stature, which I will be speaking to you in a while, the bone age will be equal to his chronological age, but the bone age, the height age will be less than the bone age. And constitutional short stature and undernutrition, chronic illnesses, the bone age is going to be less than the chronological age, but bone age may be equal to the height age, right? So familial short stature person is genetically short, so he's going to be short. So his age is going to be his height age is going to be less than the bone age. Bone age is going to correspond to his actual age. Constitutional means that his growth is retarded due to some problem, but he may go on and attain his height. So similar in the chronic illnesses, the growth is retarded due to some stress or insult. So when you take that away, he may grow well. So here the bone age is less than the chronological age, but bone age may be equal to the height age, right? And precocious puberty, bone age is well advanced of the chronological age, and height age may be equal to the bone age. So that means a 4-year-old child has gone into precocious puberty. His chronological age is 4 years, bone age will be like 10-12 years, and the height age will also be 12 years. In conditions like growth hormone deficiency, hypothyroidism, endocrine problems where there is significant growth retardation, bone age will be less than the chronological age, well below the chronological age, and bone age will be less than the height age also, because so many factors are influencing. So this is a picture of the bone age. So if you look at the X-ray serially, you can see this is a small child's one, and the number of ossification centers are less. This is a bigger child, and the number of ossification centers are more. And still a bigger child, you see more. And here the computed bone age is given. So here it says the bone age is 13.5, 13.49 years, but the actual age of the child is 16.2, so it is retarded. So, and it gives the range by standard deviations and all, right? So this is things are made easy when we do it in the digital way. Right. Now let's see about short stature. What is the definition of short stature? Height below the 3rd centile or below -2 standard deviations from the median for age, sex, and the reference population. 3% of children in a reference population will have short stature, and half of this short stature will be due to physiological causes and the rest due to pathological causes. What are the physiological causes of short stature? There are 2 patterns seen. One is a familial, which means the child is genetically short. The parents will also be short, and this person will end up as a short individual. Whereas constitutional means genetically the child is deemed to be of average height, but there's a history of or there is delayed puberty. And when there's a delayed puberty, there's a family, if you go back and ask the parents, there'll be a delayed puberty history in the parents as well. So these children will eventually achieve their target height, but that is a little bit later than their peers. Pathological short stature means they may not achieve their target height, genetical potential, unless you treat the cause. So that is the pathological short stature. So what are the causes of pathological short stature? Undernutrition. So when the child is subjected to chronic undernutrition, the child can lose the potential for height. So earlier on, it may not be, it is correctable, but if it goes on for a long time, the child becomes stunting. So it is a common correctable cause. Therefore, nutritional programs are aimed at the young age, up to 5 years, right? Up to 2 years is a golden period. Up to 5 years, you have to support the nutrition. Chronic illnesses, same. Chronic illnesses may increase, may affect the growth due to increased metabolism. Say like something like a heart failure, there is increased metabolism on and on, so energy is wasted on that. If you take chronic renal failure, then again, due to many causes, the growth is stunted, right, including vitamin D, metabolism derangement, and so on. Then GIT problems like malabsorption, chronic anemia, thalassemia, all these systemic illnesses definitely cause a short stature. They can cause short stature in children unless they are looked after well and treated appropriately. Endocrine causes, hypothyroidism, we know, growth hormone deficiency, precocious puberty. Precocious puberty, we saw earlier, if in the early period, it will cause short stature, but if you leave it untreated, they will soon arrest their growth and they will become short individuals. Cushing syndrome, pseudohypoparathyroidism are other causes of short stature. Psychosocial dwarfism, I spoke about it earlier as well. A child, to grow and nurture, grow and develop properly, the environment should be emotionally suitable. If the environment is not suitable, if there is abuse or neglect and sadness all the time, the child may not grow even if you give adequate nutrition. So that is called psychosocial deprivation or psychosocial dwarfism. Then another thing, small for gestational age. So if the child or the individual has been subjected to chronic undernutrition in the time of the intrauterine life or early childhood, they will end up as short individuals. So here, so when they are born small for gestational age, that means they have been subjected to undernutrition in the intrauterine life. So they lose their growth potential. So that is epigenetic programming, and they end up as short individuals. Skeletal dysplasia, self-explanatory. There can be short limbs ending up in short stature. And genetic and chromosomal abnormalities, Down syndrome, Turner syndrome are given as examples, but there are numerous syndromes like Amsterdam dwarfism and Laron's dwarfism, and so many things. List is endless. So here, this is hypothyroidism. This is a congenital hypothyroidism where undertreated or not treated, depending on the thyroid status, the child can end as short stature, have protuberant abdomen, large tongue, cause dry skin, and all those things, delayed dentition and all. So here childhood. So childhood means the child is okay, and then in mid-childhood, the child develops hypothyroidism, usually due to autoimmune Hashimoto disease or something. So this child she's 7, she's growing up. So somewhere here they have detected. Now you can see her growth is deteriorating, and somewhere here they have detected it, and they have started treatment, and she's growing up. And the bone age, you can say, is delayed, right? So you can see in this child, height age will be here. right? And she's growing, right? So if you see the, so here at 11 years, her height is 138 centimeters something. So which is the mean height for 7 years. So her height age is 7 years, right? So her born age is 7 years, and height age is also 7 years, right? So once the treatment has been started, you can see the difference between the born age and height age is reducing, and she is growing, but still she is sort of growing towards the mid-parental height. Okay, and childhood pathology is different, and the presentation is also different. So childhood hypothyroidism may present with poor school performance, mood instability, constipation, and so on. Whereas here it's development delay, dry skin, and those things. Okay. Growth hormone deficiency. When we say growth hormone deficiency, you know, growth hormone is one of the growth factors secreted by the anterior pituitary somatotrophs. There are other growth factors like insulin, like growth factor 1, 2, and all those things. So growth hormone deficiency may be a deficiency of all those things together, or can be due to a receptor problem. So even though there is growth hormone, it may not be able to go and act on the target organ because of the receptor issue, right? So some features of growth hormone, their birth weight is normal, but as they grow, they are seen to be short. They have very high pitched voice, and they have chubby cheeks and angel-like faces, right? Turner syndrome is another common syndrome. It is the commonest one is Downs. I have not put any pictures of Downs because we know about Down. Turner syndrome, just to remind you, I am putting, because we may not see that many Turner syndrome patients. So they have lymphedema at birth, and the birth weight may be low because chromosomal abnormalities usually end up as small for gestational age babies. Short web neck is short, and web is something like this. Here it is not very prominent. In some people, the web is very prominent. Then the shield-like chest and widely spaced nipples, wide carrying angle, right? And so carrying angle is the angle here between the body and the forearm. So for a normal person, it may be like this. For her, it is deviating away. Then the main problem with Turner syndrome would be the delayed puberty or absent secondary sexual characteristics. Congenital heart disease, coarctation of aorta is seen in them, and they may have slightly subnormal intelligence. So here is a picture of a familial short stature. So it's a growth chart of a girl with familial short stature. So here you can see the mid-parental height is here, and if you project it downwards, all her heights fall within that range. What's happening to the born age? It is corresponding to the chronological age, right? But if you see the height age, it will be less. So this child at 8 years, height age is 6 years. Okay, so simple. Constitutional delay in puberty and growth. Mid-parental height is here. And if you project it downwards, all the heights are below the mid-parental height, but the child attains puberty here and the growth shoots up. And what's happening to the born age? Born age, his chronological age is 8, born age is 6, height age is also 6. Here 11. Then he attains puberty quite late, maybe 16, 17 years. Then he shoots up and grows up to be up to his potential. So this is a summary flow chart of assessment of a child referred for short stature. If the child comes to the clinic, what are we going to do? First, we have to plot the height in the growth chart and confirm that it is short stature. Then we find out the mid-parental height, and then we plot it and see if it falls within the mid-parental height. Then we can reassure them, see, because you are short, the child is short, nothing to worry about. Give him a nutritious diet and look after him. If it's falling out of the range, if it's below the mid-parental height range, deviating from, then you have to ask for a history of delayed puberty. So if the parents say yes, there was delayed puberty in them or delayed peak height velocity, then you have to it's probably a constitutional delay in growth and puberty. So then family if there's no family history of delayed puberty, then we have to see whether it's a proportionate growth short stature or not proportionate. So if it is proportionate, so it's probably a chronic illness. If it's a child with a chronic illness, that may be the cause. We have to treat the cause. Some genetic syndromes will have a proportionate short stature. So that also, by looking for the dysmorphic features, you can find out. If it is not proportionate, very likely to be endocrine or some skeletal dysplasias and certain genetic syndromes, right? So genetic syndromes don't follow a certain pattern, can differ. So for all this group, we have to do the bone age. So bone age will give an idea whether it's an endocrine problem or whether it is normal. So, and hormone assay, right? So remember, even though there are frank features of endocrine disorders, when the child comes to you to the clinic, he may not have the full-blown picture. He or she may not have. So only a slight delay. So you have to take a proper history and determining the bone age and doing a hormone assay would be good. Hormone assay, especially thyroxine, because it's easily treatable. Just a single dose of thyroxine will put everything back to normal. So therefore, in any short stature, it is worthwhile doing the hormone, not the hormone assay, the thyroxine level. Okay, so how do you manage a child with short stature? Of course, we have to ensure adequate nutrition. Then treat the underlying systemic illness if there is so. I have discussed already. Then build the self-confidence and self-esteem in the child. Short is not always bad. You would note that all the short people in your batch will be very happy and self-possessed, and they have a very strong attitude. So it's okay. And of course, if it's a growth hormone deficiency, you have to replace it, thyroxine deficiency. If there is no growth hormone deficiency or thyroxine deficiency, there's no point giving it, right? Especially if there is, we may think it's growth hormone, therefore we can give it to any short child, but it will not be effective, right? If the short stature is a significant handicap, we may think of doing bone surgery, right? And then when you detect psychosocial deprivation or emotional problems in the environment of a child, we may have to remove the child or change the environment and intervene appropriately. So that is about short stature. Let's see something about tall stature. Now, isolated tall stature would be seen as advantageous. No one will bring their child and say, my child is tall, unless there is some associated feature. So normally it is genetic. So tall parents have tall children. It's a familial thing. And another thing, in childhood, some children eat and become fat and they grow taller quickly. But the final height will be the same, right? So you may have seen advertisements saying that if you give our product, your child will grow tall very quickly. But that's not necessary. It's of no use. But whatever you do, the final height is not going to get affected. If there's tall stature and other features, then there will be an underlying pathology. What are the pathological causes of tall stature? One is the precocious puberty. Child may be brought for inappropriate appearance of secondary sexual characteristics like breast development, pubic hair development, hair growth in the face, and so on. So that is a serious thing. We will see how to deal with that in a different lecture. Chromosomal or genetic abnormality, Klinefelters, there is mental subnormality, delayed puberty, and tall stature. Marfan syndrome, there are associated eye problems, cardiac lesions. So that is where our focus is going to be. And growth hormone excess, gigantism. So the child will be seen to grow at an excessive rate, and also widening of wrists, everything. acromegaly also will be seen by and by, and there will be visceromegaly as well. So this is a child with Klinefelter syndrome. Tall stature, mental retardation, and behavioral problems are the hallmark of them. And of course, hypogonadism. The testis is not developed well in them, and therefore they don't get the secondary sexual characteristics, but they grow tall. The adrenal androgens will be effective. So that's why they will also end up with long limbs, like this person here. Now, this one I got from the web. He's a boy from Tunisia. This picture was taken in somewhere in 1930s, and this boy has been castrated. That means his testicles have been removed in childhood. So there he doesn't have testosterone, only adrenal androgens, so which makes him grow tall. So in the last centuries, they used to do this surgery in order to create people called eunuchs, and these people cannot reproduce. So therefore they are kept in harems where women are there in palaces, and they look out. They are the guards. So here also I guess he is the guard. He has a sword. He looks very nice actually with tall stature, but unfortunately he will not be able to reproduce. So apparently it was quite famous. If you go to the internet and search eunuchs, you can see in the Middle East high officials in the government were eunuchs. So this is a picture of Marfan syndrome. Marfan syndrome is caused by a mutation in the fibrillin gene, and it results in abnormal connective tissue. So because of that, they get this long spidery fingers, hyperextensible joints, lens dislocation, and so on, and also long limbs, high arched palate. So in this picture says President Abraham Lincoln may have had this syndrome. And the serious ones are the cardiac lesion, aortic dissection, and mitral valve prolapse, atrial regurgitation due to the prolapse. So life expectancy is affected due to these cardiac problems. So these people may need proper follow-up. How do you manage a child with tall stature? First, we have to determine whether it's a pathological cause or a familial cause. And if it's a pathological cause, we may treat the underlying causes. So growth hormone excess is usually due to a pituitary tumor secreting growth hormone or other growth factors. So we may have to remove it by transsphenoidal surgery. Sometimes it is due to ectopic growth hormone secretion. Then we have to use these somatostatin analogs, which go and block the if it's ectopic cause, we have to use this pevvisomant, which will go and block the receptors. Whereas if it is due to pituitary tumor, we can use octreotide. Marfan syndrome, you have to follow them up and look after them to avoid contact sports, because they can get injuries in the joints and all, and then follow them up for associated complications.